Big thing about Sinners is the music and the blues. And Ryan Coogler said that one of the inspirations for the movie as a whole is the song One by Metallica.
Yeah, not a blues song at all. It's
blues inspired, though.
But you know, it goes to show
everything
how
is
blues
inspired by blues.
Yeah,
but metal especially.
Yeah, you know,
Right,
there's a lot
yeah.
of blues in everything, and I think that it's cool that he said that because one of the scenes in the movie, since we're talking about a spoiler, is how the big musical scene is how the blues is the basis for modern music also, and it shows all these different influences from hip hop to rock. Hey everyone, my birthday trip to Costa Rica is coming up in September, courtesy of Trova Trip, and we already have people signed up for this, but we need 4 more people to sign up for this trip. So please come in and take advantage of this early bird special, but also the next 4 people to sign up can take advantage of this code right here for extra discount. So click the link below in the description and let's make this trip happen. Also check out our Patreon, which includes exclusive content, including a new show featuring Martin and myself where we discuss classic films. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this spoiler discussion of Sinners. And the reason I want to discuss this is because there's so many things to talk about with this movie. You know, there's so many details in the film. There's so much. I think there's a lot of impact with the ending of the movie.
Yeah,
which is one thing to discussed. But also one of the biggest things are the influences for the film, and because this movie is so many different kinds of films, as we discussed in our review. We're posting up our review as well as this discussion right here. Our review is non-spoilery, unless you just didn't want to know anything. But this is where we're going to go deep and do some deep dives with the discussion right here. So, you know, one of the things in our review is we were talking about how Ryan Coogler did a great job at what he called a genre-fluid movie. We talked about how it's a crime drama, it's a thriller, it's a horror movie, it's a musical. It's an homage to other genre films out there. So many things that this movie does, and it's all balanced incredibly. So this is what I was surprised to learn with the film. One of the characters in the movie, and that was the character of, and let me see if I can find a picture of it here. It was the one that played, what was her name? She was the witch. Not a witch. You know, she was.
That's what they called her.
Yeah, they called her a witch, but she wasn't a witch. Annie, Wunmi Mosaku. There she is in the middle right there. Man, there's a word she kept using that I could not understand. I thought she kept saying, when she was referring to the vampires, she kept saying, "their hates." Did you hear this?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, she kept saying, "That's a hate. That's a hate. That's a hate." And I thought that was just some kind of different term for vampire, or because it was the South, maybe, you know, hate was since it was such a prominent part of the Jim Crow South, maybe that's what she called certain supernatural forces, hates. Turns out she's saying haint. And the reason why she's saying that is because, and listen, I just read all this stuff because I was reading so much about the movie, and you can learn a lot when you start reading about this movie. That's another beautiful thing about this film. There's so much to read about when you're done. Turns out that for Ryan Coogler, one of his favorite things is the Twilight Zone. And there's this episode of the Twilight Zone right here. And man, what is that episode called? The Last Rites of Jeff Myrtlebank. That's the name of it. If anybody knows the Dukes of Hazzards, I think that's Roscoe P. Coltrane that plays the actor. This one of the episodes of the he's only laughing. That's one of the episodes of the Twilight Zone where it was one of their more humorous ones. It was sort of a dark comedy. What happens with this is that this guy at his funeral, he wakes up and he's back to life, and everybody's kind of shocked, but everybody's like, cool, you're here, you're back, great, everybody's happy. Nobody has to be sad about this. But then all of a sudden, he just starts acting in ways that people don't remember. You know, he used to eat 3 eggs when before he died, quote unquote died. Now he eats 2 eggs every morning. He didn't do that before. You know, he's a little lazier now. And I haven't seen the episode, but I think he might be even a little more feisty.
Get out of my way. Make me.
Boy, he whoops his ass. He beat the shit out of him.
playing music.
What the hell? Yeah, what the hell was that? Yeah.
With a cat inside
What the
it.
hell was that?
This is my favorite. He tries to hide behind that tire. There's a hole right there. So what they start calling him is a haint in that episode. He loves the Twilight Zone, so I think that's where he got that word from here. They don't know if he's actually who he is or if he's a different person or even thing that's called a haint.
That's very fitting of the Southern. That has like that kind of like that feeling of like deterioration of English. You know, like he's an ain't, he's a haint, or you know, just the way
Like
the
maybe
things
they're trying to
evolve.
say hunt,
Yeah.
and they're saying haint,
Yeah.
for they country. But yeah, I was glad that I looked this up because that just kept getting me. I didn't know what they were saying.
Yeah,
at first.
I was looking it up, and there's way more influences that I forgot to mention during the review. Some of them are really interesting. One is kind of obvious, Salem's Lot. But
Yeah.
But do you know what animated movie he said influenced
Oh,
this?
wait.
Was it Puss in Boots?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Puss in Boots.
That's for the vampires, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because of the eyes.
The eyes, yeah.
Were there vampires in Puss in Boots?
No, but he said.
he's talking about death.
Remember
Oh,
the
yeah.
villain?
Yeah, the
His
death,
eyes
yeah.
glow at one point.
Yeah, so I was wondering what he meant
And
with
how he stalked his prey.
Yeah, I was wondering what he meant with Puss in Boots because I love Puss in Boots.
I know, I'm still mad you see that shit in the theater.
Man, Puss in Boots, I'm gonna tell you something. The Puss in Boots is a great film, and one of the reasons why is because of the character of Death. So Puss in Boots is almost like a Western, but the character of Death comes up, and you don't even know it's that character at first. And Puss doesn't even know, which even makes it more effective.
Retire. You are too good looking to retire.
There's a famous hat. My compliments to your cobbler.
You know, I could see with where Jack O'Connell got his performance from in this because they do the same thing here. You know, it starts out where this character is non-threatening, complimentary, or trying to offer some solace, and then it's not revealed that they're a threat until the eyes, start glowing red, and you see that something ain't right.
I'm sad as all, but I don't need no saving.
Yes. Yes, you do.
There it is. Wow, if you look at that, you see, again, a direct parallel to something like Puss in Boots. The eyes right there, definitely. What other did you say?
There was the song, remember, that Ryan Coogler said was like...
before that, you said it was Puss in Boots and something else?
Puss in Boots and... what's it called? Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot.
That's another one with the glowing eyes, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Salem's Lot, definitely, because...
Even in the remake they did that, and I thought it was pretty nice.
Well, with Salem's Lot, I think one of the most effective things that they did in Sinners is the scene where vampires are trying to come in. And they're trying to talk their way in, and they suck at it. By the way, no pun intended.
Except for Mary.
Oh, well, Mary didn't have to say nothing.
Yeah, they were begging for her to come in.
Would have definitely let her in. I would everybody. But that's one of the classic scenes from the original, where one of the kids who's a vampire now is trying to get his friend to let him in, and I could see again a big influence of Ryan Coogler with one of the scenes that he has in this movie, drawing a parallel to a scene like this. Hell no. Shit, he floating up here in his pajamas and got been farting fog and everything. Hell no. Shit, that would have been me. Ah! Way too calm.
Right back to sleep.
Boy, y'all must have been more than friends. Y'all must have been lovers for you to do that shit.
Goddamn fuck buddy.
Something. Ain't no friends coming up when you floating and got fog behind you. You more than friends. You letting them in.
I mean,
He didn't even say nothing either.
No, he just scratching on the window.
it seems like there's some hypnotism going on there.
We want that ass. Is what you want. No, hell no. No, ain't no. I don't like. If I saw you at the window, you. If I saw you floating Hell, I barely want to let you in as a human. Why would I let you in floating out the window like that? No, hell no. But again, and we showed this scene earlier. That it's very much like this scene. Vampires trying to be invited in is a big theme of or a big part of Sinners, Ryan Coogler's version.
And what is it we supposed to be doing?
Being kind to one another. And being polite. Now we is one people.
You trying to put that black shit?
Am I doing it right?
Yeah, we brothers, right? Yeah. Man, why we always gotta be fighting each other, keeping each other down?
Crabs fucking.
Why y'all gotta be crabs? Let a vampire let it in, No, as you can see, yes, that's a direct influence too. Yeah, very much so. One of the things that we talked about with this also is how this looks so great on IMAX and how they effectively use IMAX. And you and I were thinking the same thing. One of the other times that I really saw IMAX being used effectively for telling stories on a grand scale, and y'all probably already guessed what this is, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, that's how you use IMAX.
Yeah, that's The Dark Knight, and he used so much visual storytelling, Christopher Nolan, to go in and open that heist and just show that heist. It didn't sit around talking about hand me the crowbar, you mug, all that kind of stuff. They did a whole lot of just visual setups at first, and on a very grand scale too, as you can see right here.
Three of a kind. Let's do it.
What's that?
With that in the third one.
Yeah, no, you did.
With the whole Bane situation.
All those movies look great. Well, the first one he didn't have as much money. Second one,
budget in the first one.
Nah, so the Dark Knight or Batman Begins, that was not as big as Dark Knight, but that's where he really started to, have the money thrown at him, and he was able to do what he wanted to do visually, especially with IMAX cameras. But you were saying that he called Christopher Nolan to help him.
Yeah, he's credited in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the credits, Christopher Nolan is specifically thanked. And it's because they used the IMAX cameras for this movie. And they used them wonderfully.
Thought you were crazy at first, as usual, but you were telling me.
Yeah, that a big thing about Sinners is the music and the blues. And Ryan Coogler said that one of the inspirations for the movie as a whole is the song One by Metallica.
Yeah, not a blues song at all. It's
blues inspired, though.
But it goes to show
everything
how
is inspired by blues.
Yeah.
But metal especially.
Yeah, there's a lot of blues in everything. And I think that it's cool that he said that, because one of the scenes in the movie, since we're talking about a spoiler, is how the big musical scene is how the blues is the basis for modern music also, and it shows all these different influences from hip hop to rock. But it's also not just a matter of showing influence. The music is used almost when you watch this video, the guitar riffs, which is blues guitar sometimes has such a closeness to rock guitar riffs, and it's played throughout the movie, and a lot of that is heard here.
Hold my breath as I wish for death.
They won't hear me.
There's a lot of rock guitar that's played through, even though it's supposed to be the blues. Is very reminiscent of rock riffs. And
like the film, this song in particular goes through so many tones. Like it slows down, it speeds up, it gets aggressive.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see that comparison because it fits.
But rock is blues.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. And that's why I think he wanted to make that point by putting a lot of rock riff guitar in there. Because it's pretty much very modern sounding rock riffs.
Oh, yeah, it is.
What I do want to talk about is the ending of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Damn, we talk about that post-credit scene.
Yeah, I didn't even see the post-credit scene.
You didn't see it?
No, I didn't know there was one.
God,
the movie actually never ends.
Yeah, I know there's a post-credit scene. Now,
it's one of the best post-credit scenes I've ever seen.
So we'll get to that in a little bit, but during the true ending of the movie, because the credits come up and we're seeing this old guy who's actually named Buddy Guy, who's playing, and that's the character of Sammy. Sammy has grown up. Sammy escaped the night. So if you've seen the movie, the night goes down. Everybody's either changed to a vampire or dies or something, and Sammy is the one that got away. Sammy and and Smoke. And Smoke doesn't even get away if you consider how he dies.
Yeah.
But even he's kind of given a really cool ending. And before we even get to that, I would say this. I want to talk about that ending with Smoke.
That was a sad ending.
Because Smoke goes down. Well, it's bittersweet in a way where, so when they're sold, let me see here. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for here. There we go. So when the Smokestack brothers are sold the juke joint,
The property.
the property at least,
In the land, yeah.
Yeah, when they sold that building in the land, they told the guy who's a white guy, they said, don't bring any of your Klan friends around here to try to stop us. And the guy tells him the Klan is done. When nobody's coming out here, the Klan is through. There's no such thing as the Klan anymore, which is, we all know, bullshit. Especially at the end of the movie where the vampires tell him, because the vampires have been saying, hey, listen.
They didn't want to snitch.
They say, hey, listen, let's join us, be vampires. In fact, that guy who told you that he wasn't going to come around here because the Klan doesn't exist, he's a member of the Klan. He was going to come around here and bring his friends, and they were going to double cross you in the morning. They're going to kill you. And we don't know whether to believe this guy because he's a vampire, but turns out he's telling the truth. And they do show up with the intent to kill. At this point, Smoke was ready. Smoke brought smoke. He had a whole arsenal packed just in case shit went down. And at the end, we get this real satisfying. That's why I say it's an action movie at the end. We get this real satisfying ending where he comes out and just blasts all the Klan, just kills them all. And who doesn't want to see, unless you're a racist fuck, and who doesn't want to see the Klan be shot down, destroyed, demolished, killed? You know, we like to talk about, I love seeing a Nazi get killed. I love seeing a Nazi die. The only good Nazi is the dead Nazi. Should be seen the same way with the Klan.
Yeah.
But in the process, he gets shot, of course, and he's dying. And they give him sort of a bittersweet ending because he sees his lover. And the thing is, they had a baby, and the baby died. And so he gets to see the baby breastfeeding his lover, one named Mosaku, and who was killed early. He actually killed her because she didn't want to turn. Mm-hmm. But I think, I wanted to discuss this because you're saying it's a sad thing that he died, but I think, and plus he went down ready to die.
Yeah, I don't think, because there was no reason for him, at least in his eyes, to live anymore. He once his twin brother died, he was just like, man, what else?
Here's something else to think about too. I don't know if this is me reading probably too much into it.
Julian in this shit.
I'm Julian in this shit. The way this compares to Monkey Bone, man. I think that he didn't have anything to live for. His lover was gone. His baby's gone. His brother's gone.
Right.
He's like, I don't need to be here anymore. I'm gonna take these guys out. Maybe that dude was telling the truth. But also, I think it's a good thing that he went down, because if he had lived and mowed down all these Klan members, racist white people would have came in and took it out on the community. It would have been a Rosewood situation.
Yeah.
But since let's just say they find all these dead bodies and they see him there, they're gonna be like, well,
ain't no way he did all this shit.
Well, the dead here, so they would have been like, okay, so the guy that's responsible is dead. Okay. So we don't have to take vengeance out on
they gonna
the
still
black
do
community.
it regardless.
You think so?
Yeah, they still do it regardless.
They're gonna do something.
Any reason possible.
But they're not gonna go in retaliation as hard as they would if he had lived and they were like, okay, where's he hiding? Where is he? You tell us. We're gonna burn this whole community down if we don't find him. Yeah, so it would have been a Rosewood situation.
For me, what made that scene so impactful is there's a moment where he's reflecting on the whole night that had happened, and he thinks about what the future could have been. Mm-hmm. And that's when the shit really hit me hard, because I was like, man, in our reality, the world we live in, how many times was there some black guy who finally got an opportunity like this, and then the Klan or some racist just came in and slaughtered them? Vampires be damned. And that hit hard for me.
Well, that is one of the points of the movie, is that, and this is what people keep trying to tell people about history. Everybody keeps saying black people are shiftless, lazy, dumb. If you were smart, you would have done something with yourselves. The Asians do it when they come here. Jews do it. Indian people. Well, Indian are counted as Asian too. So how come y'all dumb black asses can't do it? Because one of the things that's always happened with black people, for some reason, there's always been a target on our backs where whenever we've achieved, they've gone in, burned it down, blown it up, bombed it, You know,
Right,
think
yeah.
about Black Wall Street.
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma, yeah, Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. Think about Rosewood. Think about Austin, Texas, where people were displaced and they moved into a whole other section of the city. You know, they've drowned out cities. His point was that they did exactly what they said they were going to do. They came in and they would let him have it for one night just to rub it in his face, and they were going to come in and murder all of them just so they wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
You know, because be damned any black people make any money or have power. And that's that's why there is still, you know, this disparity in poverty with black people, you know. It's been whole histories of every time we've got ahead, it's been taken from us. And so, and even today, you know, discrimination still exists.
Oh, yeah,
and so why people want to point at us and say we're dumb, we can't make it because we're genetically inferior and whatnot. No, you took shit from us. You know, every time we had something, you snatched it, you blew it up, you destroyed it. And that shit, you know, and meanwhile, what they're looking at, you know, this is what the movie's trying to say. You know, it's like it's always been snatched from us historically. But white people like to say, we made it, we've done it. But you have a legacy. You know, that's why affirmative action was there, because people got into Harvard because their fathers were in Harvard, their grandfathers were in Harvard, their great-grandfathers were in Harvard. You know, we don't have that. We weren't, you know, we don't have any people who went to college historically like that. We don't have generational wealth that's handed down. You know, we don't have a person, somebody who's president, like the Bush family that can make us president too. You know what I'm saying? That's what the movie was. So you're hitting it. You know, that's exactly what it was. That's what they're saying.
Though it's unfortunate that you missed the rest of the quote unquote ending, because that's why I was saying, did the movie remind you of Spike Lee? Because Spike Lee also is notorious for not knowing how to end his movies, you know, like where he'll just keep going with stuff. Well, and I don't think that it was bad, but the movie keeps going.
Well, I don't think that it's, the movie did almost two endings, and I think that they're needed. Back to this whole thing with Buddy Guy. You know, the movie ends with Buddy Guy because that's the personal part with Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler's uncle loved Buddy Guy. His uncle died while he was filming something else. I forgot what it was, but while he was filming, he didn't get to see his uncle. So if you remember the movie, years later, you have Stack and Mary come in. They're the 90s now. They dressed up in these hip hop clothes. Got crazy 90s haircuts.
Big medallion.
Yeah. So they come in, and I like it because it was a good epilogue. It showed that, first of all, it was a personal way for Ryan Coogler to say goodbye to his uncle. For them, because when Stack comes in, it looks like he's about to go in for a bite, but he's sniffing and hugging Sammy, who's 90 years old now, and he says, "You're about to die. I can change that. I can keep you alive." And of course this guy's like, "Nah, look, I lived long enough. I want to go. I don't want to live forever." And so that's a way of saying goodbye to his uncle. Also, I think it was a good way of giving this a real emotional ending. You know, these guys. They said that they had, before the vampires came, they had the best night of their lives, and it was a good way of expressing that at the end. You know, that's the way I see it. I thought that was a really great way to end the movie. He goes about his way, they go theirs, and they have one last goodbye. Yeah,
and it was unexpected also. They did a good job of bringing the tension back that the climax of the movie had.
Yeah, that's his cousin, by the way. So that's why they wanted to say goodbye.
So you really don't know what was going to happen. And I do agree, I do like that part, but that was the main ending that I was hoping that you would have seen.
Well, also I heard about the thing with the post-credit scene. And I think that's cool too, because in the post-credit scene, we have the character of Sammy, again, the cousin. And he got through playing his music, and when he gets through playing, I mean, if I'm correct, he looks up in the sky, right?
Yeah, he looks up at someone.
Seems. And, his music conjures up loved ones, ancestors, future people. Maybe when he looks up, maybe that was another hopeful ending where we see, after smoke dies Maybe he saw smoke. Maybe he saw Smoke's loving his baby. You know, that's, you know, without telling us too much, maybe that's, you know, it was meant to give us hope about his fate. He's okay. We might, maybe he saw something else. We don't know, but that's great that we can interpret that that way if we want to.
Yeah, I like that.
Maybe. I don't know. That's great to have. Listen, we've been having so many stingers and post-credit stingers where we're just teasing the next movie.
Yeah,
the next property, the next money-making thing. You know, with here, it's it's meant to give you an emotional ending. It's meant to tie up things, and you know, another place that Ryan Coogler is smart enough to say, and at this moment has enough self-respect to say, I don't want to just make this a commercial for the next product, because let me see here. If you remember, he did the same thing with something else, and this, you know, because of circumstances, it's you know, he had to do this. It would have been disrespectful to not do it.
Uncle Barney. My name is Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa.
You know, he ended that it was a very non-Marvel way to end the movie. It continued to, you know, tell a story, an emotional one at that.
Yeah, that just feels like a drama about a family just coming to a close.
Yeah, yeah. So I think Ryan Coogler's, you know, as we've seen with Sinners and all his other movies, he's a story person first.
Well, if this does make enough money, y'all think they can make a second one? I mean, they leave the door open for a second one.
No way.
No, I'm saying, like, I mean, they leave it open to do it. Then you can continue it.
I think if they made a sequel to the movie Sinners, they would have to sit down long and hard and think about what it's about and where they're going to go with that.
I feel like if they were to do it, Ryan Coogler wouldn't be the director of it.
Oh, then it would suck.
Ryan, listen, the only way
only
way I can see it being done and done well is if Ryan Coogler has another story to tell in this world. If he wants to have an offshoot of this, something that this is taking place somewhere else. There's some, a side story or something, explore what other things these vampires have done. I mean, or maybe even tell a different story within this universe, and they reference it here. But a sequel, I don't know. Prequel, somebody said in the chat, maybe.
I was thinking prequel. You could do definitely a movie about Smoke and Stack, and I think people would love that.
Hell yeah.
Man, if you did like no vampires, it's just them doing that thing, working for Al Capone.
You would have to introduce a lot of new characters so you could build up stakes because you know that they lived through that story. But there's a chance there.
I think you hit it, and people agree with you, man. Like it would be. Like
Mafia 3.
You want to make a video game reference, there you go, Mafia 3. But you said everybody's saying a prequel, yeah. I think that's a great idea to do it with the Smoke and Stack.
And it would be a movie about Capone.
Yeah.
Which would be interesting because the end of it, I'm sure, would be crazy. Because they leave with all that truck, with all that liquor, all those guns, all that money. Yeah.
Now you're making me want to see that. Isaac Stevens, 2 quick things about Sinners. So at the end of the movie, Stack mentions he's not entirely free. Any thoughts about this? Yeah, I think that, well, let me say this. I got some thoughts. You go ahead first.
Well, I mean, it's obvious, he's living through the Jim Crow era. Like, black people still are, they're held back today. So even back then, he's just talking about how, like, man, this isn't freedom for me. Nothing is.
Well, I think it meant that he wasn't free when they were, before that night happened. That's why he says, I felt free at that moment. We were all, when we were all at the juke joint. We were all having our one big night, something for us. That's why he said that was the best night of my life, because I felt free. I think now that's the curse of being a vampire. You're not free. You're immortal, but he also said at the end, he said, that was the last time I felt free. That's the last time I saw the sun. Mm-hmm. Being a vampire, it seems like it's cool, but it's also somewhat of a curse. There's still these limitations that come with it.
And you lose your individuality with that hive mind.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't got secrets no more.
They seem to be free. They seem. The only thing that seems to really be bad about being a vampire is that you have this constant thirst, this constant hunger that drives you to be evil.
A monster.
And then you'll never see the sun again. You'll never feel the warmth of the sun.
That's what they say.
Yeah. And I think that means that he's he's trapped. You know, at first he's talking about being a vampire. He probably thinks it is, but you know, you're still trapped in something. And man, my dumb ass thought that was exactly Bootsy Collins in one scene. That look is iconic. Yes, so I think that was supposed to be either George Clinton or Bootsy Collins, probably Bootsy Collins. I don't know if y'all know who Bootsy Collins is, but you don't know who Bootsy Collins is, do you?
No.
Director of, I think, or what's it called?
Wrong.
No?
Wrong. You thinking of Boots Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be like wrong. Let me just stop you right there. What you thinking?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you something. So if you noticed during the musical number, there was one person that stood out, and I'm sure a lot of people like, what the hell is that? Who is that supposed to be? Let me show you something here, and I want, and especially you, and you. I think your man already knows, but yeah, he knows.
And you see the damn movie.
Yeah, he knows. But this remind you of anybody you saw in the movie?
Oh shit.
Also, let me put up something else. And that's Bootsy Collins. There was a dude who looked like he looked like a spaceman.
He reminded me of Thundercat a little bit.
No, it wasn't supposed to be that. I know that, but that's not because you don't know who these other people are. It was supposed to be that funk era, the pretty much the pioneers of funk.
Well, in that moment, they said the future, so that implied anything.
Well, no, what they say about the future is it influenced hip hop, it influenced rock, it influenced funk. Yeah. George Clinton was one of the pioneers of funk as we know it today, and I'll show you another thing with George Clinton. So this is George Clinton. This is what that dude that you saw with the space do-rag and playing the guitar. That's a reference to probably George Clinton and probably to a certain degree Bootsy Collins.
I can see that for sure.
Now if you
look, it's perfect right there.
Man, look, if I played y'all some Bootsy Collins like the Mothership Connection or something like that, then y'all would see it. Let me see here. Dr. Funkenstein, the Mothership Connection, Parliament. Yeah, I mean, like, look at this. Spaceships and shit.
Mm-hmm. All right, y'all, get off your ass.
That dude's supposed to be George Clinton.
I can
and
totally see it.
Probably a combination of Bootsy Collins. And by the way, you mentioned Thundercat. Thundercat was way influenced by Bootsy Collins. Also
was influenced by somebody.
Yeah. Also, the rock thing. So Parliament did a whole lot of rock combined with funk back in the early 70s, probably even late 60s. One of my favorite songs from them is a song called Super Stupid. And you can definitely hear how that has a lot of rock influences in it. That's from Maggot Brain. Classic album, by the way. So that's, I know a lot of young people weren't going to notice that part. So that's a great question bringing that up, Isaac. And, and listen, hey, things change, man. Y'all are young enough to where it's at that point now where, your man over here, he gets to keep his black car, like you said, but, you're young enough where your black car kind of disappears for a while.
Ain't nobody
you're young enough to where you probably wouldn't remember some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I get it. I mean, even with Gen X, my generation, a lot of people rediscovered George Clinton because of the G-Funk era of hip-hop. When
sampling and stuff.
Yeah, sampling, like especially with Dr. Dre. Mm-hmm. That whole G-Funk thing was coming through at the time. So.
But yeah, what you just played, I definitely can hear that there's parts that are very similar in the movie.
Yeah. Great question, man. Or would you look at that? You made it to the end of the video. That means you really like us. So just go ahead and press that like button and subscribe while you're at it. And check out our other channels, our social media like Instagram, TikTok, and our Patreon where we have new stuff coming up all the time. And we'll see you on the next video.